we just say first? No, I just help if you need it. Maybe I
can. Thank you so much. I'd like to introduce some of our crew that's here. Why don't you come on up, guys? Or gals, actually, they're all women. We're down to a little skeleton of a crew. Sorry, we're sort of towards the end of the festival. We've lost quite a few people. But this is Cindy Lee, and she was our editor, and she was doing a great job. There are really a lot of complex issues in this movie, and to synthesize it down to a way that people can understand it is really fabulous, so thank you. This is Rebecca Saladoff. She's my daughter, and she was co-producer, assistant editor, associate, she was everything. So she's cooking bottle washer. This is Reniqua Allen, and she was one of our archival producers. We had a ton of archival, and she was one of the people that helped us find all of that. And this is Erin Crumpacker, and she was an associate producer and basically helped out with a lot of our social media and just whatever I asked her to do. So thanks. I'm just going to tell you just two little quick stories, and then I'm going to take questions. When I got the call from David Courier, who was a senior programmer for Sundance the Monday before Thanksgiving, I was, of course, blown away. And he said to me, he says, "You do know, Susan, that everyone in our office is checking their employment contracts to see if they have a mandatory application." And then he said, "And we do." And I said, "Well, that's funny, David, because I had to sign one to enter this festival," which I didn't want to do. And I called my producer and I said, "I'm not going to sign this." She goes, "Sign the damn thing." The thing is that when you get an application online, you have to check off, do you agree to these terms before you can even do anything? And if you don't check yes, you can't submit it. And almost all of them have mandatory arbitration clauses. In Florida now, you can't get medical care in a hospital unless you sign a consent form that has a mandatory arbitration clause. And there's nothing wrong with arbitration if it's voluntary and if it's fair, where they're both sides that get to pick the decision maker. It's the mandatory arbitration clause that we have trouble with. So anyway, opening up for questions. Yes, way in the back there.
I have two quick questions. First of all, and this may sound kind of simplistic, who in the American legal system publishes standards for determining what constitutes a frivolous lawsuit?
Okay, so what is a frivolous lawsuit to you? I mean, because I bet you if I ask everybody here, you'll have a different definition. Because it's never your case that's frivolous, it's always that person's case that's frivolous, right? There are no standards like that. There are checks and balances in our system already. Most of the time, people who bring frivolous lawsuits don't have a lawyer, because lawyers who do this kind of work only get paid if they win. And they're not going to take a lot of frivolous lawsuits because they have to put out a lot of money, and insurance companies are not throwing money at frivolous lawsuits, believe me. There are frivolous lawsuits that are filed from businesses to businesses. And there are also systems in place that when people file a frivolous lawsuit, that they actually there are ethical rules, or they can get fined for doing that. So lawyers tend to be the gatekeepers of this. We don't always hear that. We hear too many frivolous lawsuits, greedy trial lawyers, jackpot justice. Those were market-tested phrases. We had a lot of footage that we didn't put in here, we just couldn't fit everything in here. But there's a guy named Frank Luntz, and he literally does focus groups around these phrases. He came up with the term death tax instead of estate tax because he wanted to infuriate people. That's the kind of thing. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
the second one was,
yes.
I anticipated that answer, so I just want to know what your experience is, the number of frivolous lawsuits that you've seen personally.
I haven't seen very many frivolous lawsuits as an attorney. Does that mean there aren't any? Of course there are. But they aren't always brought by lawyers. So the other day I was watching a television commercial, and they were talking about a woman who was texting in a mall, and then she tripped and she fell. Did you see all that? Did anybody ever ask her if there was ever a lawsuit filed? Was there ever a lawyer? What happened? No, they just assumed that it was a frivolous lawsuit, even though it had just happened. She hadn't filed anything. So, it's a perpetuation. It's more of the propaganda and the millions of dollars that's been spent in a public relations campaign to convince all of us that we need to reform our system. Who benefits from that? Corporations. Because if we can't access the courts, then corporations make more money. Other questions? Yes, back here. You, yes. You.
So obviously this was very pro-plaintiff as a movie. I just wanted to kind of get your opinion on slap lawsuits, certificate lawsuits against public participation, I think.
Why don't you explain to people what that really means?
Yeah, so that's, I mean, I'll frame it in a very biased way. It will be very angry. That would be a blogger posts some information that a business is not happy about that information being available. So the business will press a lawsuit in order to basically suppress the information. And that can be done in a number of ways. So that's kind of the long and short of it. I just kind of want to get your opinions on how you feel about those. And there are kind of there's some push toward reform in that direction. And kind of what you feel about that.
You know, I didn't really do a lot of research on that. I didn't cover that in the film. I don't really feel comfortable responding to that, to be honest. I mean, I think that those are intimidation factors to prevent people from filing lawsuits. But I don't really have a whole lot of comments on that. I actually, you know, I usually start the Q&A by asking, will the representative from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce please raise his hand? I'm always assuming that they're here or that they're monitoring this because, you know, we've been getting a lot of really positive press and you're right, you know, this is a plaintiff's perspective. That's what I was. I was a plaintiff's trial lawyer and I'm not ashamed of it. We've heard for 25 years one side of the story. And in order for us as an American public, as people to vote, to sit on juries, to really be able to have an opinion, we have to hear both sides of the story, just the way a jury does. And then we can all evaluate it. I tell people all the time, I'm not trying to change your minds. Not everybody's going to agree with me. I just want to open people's minds so that we can start a debate that's a real debate based on both sides of the story and not just one.
I came here tonight to get educated, so I thank everybody on stage for doing that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Education. You basically have two films going on here. It's a TNA film, Horton,
What's the end?
Operation. My short question, I'm going to throw out a solution, and I want you to comment on it both as a filmmaker and as a lawyer. What if instead the corporations, instead of doing this huge lump sum that's considered a jackpot, it was actual costs that the family incurred over the life of that person? However, you know, it could be 8 million, it could be 10, he might die at the age of 15, but that way it's neither a jackpot nor is it a lump sum. I mean, a cap limit. That's what I mean.
I think that's a great idea. Unfortunately, most people want things to end when they end, and they don't want it to be like open-ended, particularly insurance companies. You know, they put out reserves at the beginning of a case saying how much money they think they're going to eventually have to spend out. They don't want that left open-ended for the rest of the person's life. But, you know, I mean, suggest it to your legislator. Oh, just one thing before I was thinking about it. How many people saw President Obama today in this film say he opposes caps and who heard the State of the Union address?
Unbelievable.
So I was giving an interview yesterday and I said, you know, President Obama really needs to see this film. And hopefully he will, because, you know, this is happening right now, everybody. And, you know, only we can do anything about it. So please contact your congresspeople. You know, stop signing mandatory arbitration clauses. I tell people, I have a friend in Chicago, and whenever he sees a mandatory arbitration clause, instead of signing his name, he writes no effing way. It's like, yeah, right over here. Yeah, the green, the woman, yeah.
Okay, so I've always been kind of that same person who, when I see one, I bring it up. I've actually not seen doctors when I really, really needed to, and I've always said I'm not willing to work with people who are not willing to be judged by a jury of their peers. So, but when you say in here that they're doing this in credit card agreements, in different things after the fact, I had never considered that at all. So is there a way to find out, to kind of call the credit card agencies or whatever, and find out who you currently have agreements?
You know, you can, but unfortunately in most of those situations, it doesn't matter because you don't have a choice. You know, if you use your credit card, if you use your cell phone, you have agreed. So that's why we have to stop these things from being in employment contracts, or, I mean, being in these contracts, and the first step is for all of us to even know they're there. You know, how many of you didn't even know that this was happening? That didn't even, like, you know, most of us. You know, people just, and we first have to know what's happening, and then we have to stand up as a group of people and say no. You know, most of the time, if it's a written contract, if you just cross it out and put your initials, you know, the person who's handing it to you doesn't have a clue what it is. You know, but you can't always get away with that. But we have to start doing something to say, no, we're not going to have this happen to us. Yes, down here. Either one of you, whoever, fight over it.
I have a question. And it's not really about the law, it's about your personal experience of making this film, because you obviously have quite a background as a trial lawyer, but maybe not so much as a filmmaker, and I just wondered what that was like for you to come through. I mean, it seems like a very different field of endeavor.
Thank you for asking that. You're the first person in all the Q&As who has asked me anything about the filmmaking. Everybody has always wanted to talk to me about the issues, so thank you. This is my first film. And, you know, people ask me, well, how did you learn how to do this? You know, I didn't go to film school, but I did try cases in front of people. And I had to tell stories through witnesses and use exhibits. And I just took that skill and I put it in a different format. So I mean, you know, I don't want to say it was work because it was so much fun. And it was a lot, you know, there was a lot of time and a lot of effort, and, you know, we worked a long time. We did a lot. But I had the story. I knew what I wanted to say, and I knew what it would look like, and it was great. It beats the hell out of practicing law. Yeah. Yes, back there.
So what's that?
Well, I do have another film in my head. Haven't told too many people about it, so I'm not going to like spill the beans right here. But I do hope, I took a sabbatical from my practice. I thought it was going to be 1 year. I did go back to practicing part-time the beginning of this year, and it just wasn't happening because I could not be in two places at one time. I couldn't represent my clients the way I wanted to represent them and also finish this film. And I had made a commitment to finish this film and do the best job I could. So I started to go back on sabbatical, and then my firm said, well, no, we need to know when you're coming back. And I said, I don't know. So I'm on leave from practicing law right now. I'm on inactive status. I'm still a lawyer, but I'm not with a firm anymore. And I'm hoping to continue to be a filmmaker. We'll see what happens. Yes?
Okay, I really appreciated the portions of the film that addressed the jury and how there's kind of this displacement of we appreciate as people of this country that the jury, but we are also distrustful of them making these decisions. And I noticed that you got to interview two of the jurors in the Leavitt case. And so I'm wondering what their perspective was of how their decision, when they were the ones that had the facts, and it was manipulated and turned around in kind of this terrible way, and how that made them feel about their participation in the judicial process.
They felt ridiculed. They did not want to speak with me originally because they felt like, well, what are you doing? Are you bringing this back up? We've already been embarrassed by this. So they were very, very hesitant to speak with me. But what they did say, it was a unanimous verdict. There was never any discussion about whether or not she deserved something. It was only how much. Because they got so angry at McDonald's because they were callous about, you know, what's 700 burns? You know, we sell 1 billion cups of coffee. But what happened is that Reed Morgan, who was the lead counsel, had another McDonald's case, another burn case 6 years before, and his client's name was not on the list. And so in cross-examination, he said, now, Mr. So-and-so, where's Mrs. Swint? You know that I represented her 6 years ago and there was a claim. Where's her name on the list? They go, oh, well, how many other people are not on this list? And that got them angry. Yeah. Yes, way in the back.
How did you find Colin and his family and the judge in Mississippi?
Luck. I had the stories already. I wrote an outline in the summer of 2008. I knew what I wanted to show in the movie, but I didn't know who I was going to show it through. But when I went around the country raising money, I had made, I did the first storyline first, the McDonald's case, because if they didn't agree to participate, I didn't have the movie. So I did that first, and then we made, Cindy and I edited down a 26-minute trailer. It was like an extended trailer, and we used that to raise money to fund this film. And everywhere I went, I would tell people what the other storylines were, and then people would come up to me afterwards and say, oh, I know so-and-so, and it was through word of mouth that I found those two people. Jamie, on the other hand, I found because I got a grant from the Civil Justice Foundation, and she was being honored at the same time I was being honored by the film was getting the grant, and I heard her speak, and I was like, oh, I have to have her in the film. And I showed her the 26-minute trailer, and she said I would be honored to be in this film. And Jamie, by the way, did not come this time. She's 9 months pregnant with her second child. She wasn't unable to fly, but she wanted desperately to be here, so she sends her wishes.
Have anyone seen it?
Oh yeah, they were all here. They were all here Monday for the premiere. Yeah, except for Jamie. But Jamie has seen her portion. I sent each of the sections to the families way when we did the rough cut, just to make sure that I didn't miss anything, that there wasn't anything inaccurate. So they all saw those. So they never saw any of the other portions though. So on Monday, it was the first time they saw the film. It was very exciting. Yeah, down here.
Is there any pushback from the U.S. Chamber's side?
There's some blogging on the other side about how I'm hiding the fact that I'm a trial lawyer making this movie. Have I hidden that from you? That's about it. They haven't seen it yet. There was a review in the Hollywood Reporter that said, you know, the trial lawyers will give me a standing ovation. Where are all of you trial lawyers? But that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce will deplore this and that they're probably coming up with their own film. I don't know. I anticipate being attacked. I anticipate the film being attacked. And I hope that all of you, whoever supports this effort, will fight back, you know? Blog about it, tweet about it, go to our website, comment, you know, take action, do something, use your voices to get the point out. Our website is hotcoffeethemovie.com. We have a Facebook fan page, which is just facebook.com/hotcoffeethemovie, and we tweet and all that other stuff. Yes, down here.
Isn't the ongoing repeal of healthcare reform, the tort reform, is the major proponent of it, isn't it?
Well, that's one of the ones that they're most vocal about, yeah. Whoever's leaving, please remember to vote. Today's the last night for voting, so please vote. So yeah, that is big, you know, that's the big thing. They want to get caps on damages. You know, it'll pass the House, no question about it. Hopefully it'll get stalled in the Senate. I don't know what President Obama will do. I mean, he's trying to give up the concessions now. I mean, he's made some, you know, overtures about that. I'm going to try to get this film in front of Congress. You know, that's my goal. And not just the federal Congress. You know, I want to get this film in front of legislatures. How many people know what the cap on damages here in Utah? Does anybody know that? Are you familiar that there is a cap on damages for non-economic damages here in Utah? You don't know it because, you know, unless it's happened to you, you probably don't even care. And if you sit on a jury, nobody will tell you that.
Where would you find that?
You find it by going, you can Google it. You know, on our website is hotcoffeethemovie.com/takeaction, and in those action items are resources where you can go to take action, and one of them is finding out about your state laws. I'm going to take one over here. Yeah.
Thank you. I thought your film was brilliant.
Thank you.
In terms of the picture of the burns, that was most impactful. Have you put that on your website?
I have not, because I want people to come and see the movie, and I want them to have the same reaction that you had when you see it.
After they've seen the movie and you've run it for a while, would you? Because that would be very helpful for those of us who try lawsuits.
Yeah.
Because we live
a lot of
with
people
this
have asked me for
McDonald's-
this pictures.
We live with this McDonald's company.
I know you do, and I'm going to do everything I can, and I'm trying to do everything I can to help. I also have to protect the things that are in the film that make it a great film and make people want to come and see it. So
6 months.
it's 6 months, whenever, at some point you'll have it. You'll have a DVD, okay? Yes.
We're in Utah, and I saw you mention punitive damages, and the United States Supreme Court in the State Farm Campbell case from the known to be conservative juries and judges of Utah overturned punitive damages for the whole country. based upon this case where State Farm did some horrible things to a homeowner. I wanted to know if you considered that as part of your movie, and I saw you had Tom Baker, the law professor, who wrote the Medical Malpractice Myth book, and whether you considered trying to get more of the true facts out about medical malpractice as well.
You know, there was so much I wanted to put in this film. But, you know, it had to be, you know, there's only so much you can do. I mean, yesterday somebody came up to me and he does class actions, and he said, well, how come you didn't put anything in about class actions? I'm like, go, you know, I just couldn't do more than what I did. There's already a ton of information. I'm hoping that on our website, eventually we'll be able to address some of these other issues and put more things on our website to alert people to other ways that our civil justice system is being attacked.
Let's just take 2 more questions.
2 more. Who's dying to have a question? There's one over here. Yes, in the black, right there, the one looking around.
I was sitting in the audience, I just want to hear about the experience of going from this side to having a film at Sundance.
It's, you know, I want to tell you, I want to say that it's a dream come true, but I'm not even sure that I can say that I even dreamt all of this. It's so amazing that everything that I wanted to happen and everything that I believed could happen is actually happening, that people actually have a hunger for the truth and really are willing to hear it for the first time. I'm not sure that this film could have been made or received 5 years ago. I'm just not sure. But for some reason now, people seem to be willing to listen to another side of the story, and I'm so grateful that you are. Thank you. One more question? Yeah, way in the back. Thank you very much.
Thanks for
I do all the time.